Homicide report. Detective McMahon, badge number 1025, August 26, 2014, at 11:34 p.m., 544 Northwest Tarrant Street. One deceased female, age 26, large entry wound to chest, heart removed. Hey Jason, what we got this time? Yeah, it's another one, the CSI officer said, shaking his head. Same MO, chest ripped open, heart removed. Human heart from previous deceased person at scene. How many does this make? The detective asked. Are we counting the one at the lake? Jason inquired. No, not yet anyway, replied Detective McMahon. 5 then. But there's no way we can deny that they are at least connected, Jason said to the detective, squinting his eyes. Yeah, I hear ya. But there was no heart present. It's his calling card. There's no way he'd leave out that little detail. This guy's sick and it's ritual. They may be connected, but it may be a copycat. I'm not giving him the credit till I'm sure. The detective pulled out his lucky Zippo, rubbed it with his fingers as he examined the apple engraved in its surface. As he lit his cigarette, he noticed the pale ring around his left ring finger. He took a deep breath, ran his finger through his hair, and exhaled. Near the woods, on an old country road near the outskirts of town, a car pulled to a stop about 20 yards up the road. A young teenage couple seeking reclusion from prying eyes then the lights of the car. Hey, look, at least turn on some music or something before they just start grabbing around, the girl said to the teenage boy as he rolled his eyes and fumbled for the radio. Come on, don't be a sad sport. Make it romantic, she laughed. Oh yeah, he said sarcastically. Real romantic, sneaking off with me, while your boyfriend, my friend, sits at home loving you. We're not supposed to be out here anyway with the curfew and all. Oh, please, that girl died almost a month ago, and I didn't hear you complain the last time, or the time before that, she said as she unbuttoned her shirt. Come on, you know that. The car shook violently as something slammed down onto it. What the hell was that? The boy screamed as he frantically looked around. All he could see was a single black feather floating in the air above the hood. Then suddenly his window bursted into shards as he felt two steely, ice-cold hands reach through the window and grasp him, pulling him through the open window, and began tossed into the near tree. His back smashed as he wrapped around it like a rag doll. He lay there motionless as he looked on in terror as a tall, lanky figure with white hair and crystal blue eyes that almost seemed to glow stare at him. He wore no shirt, his skin as grayish-black. He had a skull on his face, the ribcage and bones to match on his chest and arms. They seemed to be painted on. He also had the bones on the outside of his hand and fingers. He wore jeans and an old pair of shoes. The boy felt the most terrible sadness come over him. He lay there hopeless as the figure changed the attention from him to the girl and moved towards the car. Tommy! Tommy, help me! She screamed as the figure jumped onto the hood of the car. The figure smashed out the windshield, reaching inside the car, grabbing the girl and slowly dragging her out of the hood. She didn't fight back. She lay still now. It crouched over her and looked at Tommy while lowering its head. The creature then whispered something in the girl's ear and kissed her on the forehead. The figure started pulling at something at his chest, slowly and maniacally. Tommy could hear disgusting sounds of blood dripping down and flesh rustling around the creature as it seemed to be reaching inside of its own chest. It then pulled out something from himself and laid it on the hood next to the girl. The figure then removed the girl's shirt. No! Valerie! No! Tommy used the last of his strength to scream. The figure grinned as he slammed his fist into her chest. He struck her repeatedly as the bone crushed and popped with every strike. She violently shook and coughed up blood as he continued to hit her. Tommy laid motionless. All he could do was shed one tear. The tear rolled down his cheek as he watched the monster begin to rip and tear into the flesh of his bare hands. Finally, he reached his prize and pulled her still beating heart from inside her. He placed her heart inside the wound he had created in his chest, then dug around in his pockets and pulled something out and placed it in his mouth. The creature then began to pull the girl's hair from her head and laid the strands of her hair neatly next to each other. He took the object from his mouth, which appeared to be some sort of needle, and picked up a lock of hair and began to sew his wound shut. Tommy lay silent in terror as he watched the grotesque task begin executing the next practice in precision. He noticed a small movement from the ground near the base of the car. He blinked his eyes to clear his vision and saw it was a small scruffy dog pouncing around it, wagging its tail. The figure stepped out of the car, knelt down and petted the dog on the head. It spun around and wagged its tail. The figure turned his attention back to Tommy, then walked over and stooped down to his knees near Tommy's head. Tommy could see the horrific detail of the thing's body. The black skin, skull, and bones were all a part of him, not like tattoos or painted on him, but as if it was actually his skin. Tommy could see the crude stitches holding the wound together, made from Valerie's hair. The creature looked down at Tommy and tilted his head inquisitively as he reached out its hand and wiped away from Tommy's tear. Tommy could feel nothing but a horrible, hopeless sadness as he stared into the thing's bright blue eyes. The figure then softly placed his hands on either side of Tommy's face. It then leaned in closer and spoke the words, "Do you value your heart?"